Hello, this is Tom from Tabletop Taproom and the Star Frontiers Gamer. This is part 2 of our Star Frontiers Outpost 1 adventure options. Again, this is a series that was started because of a Facebook post. Somebody made a comment that caused me to go back and look in Zebulon's guide, and I went, I don't remember some of this detail. And that made me dig a little deeper, and that led to this series. So without further ado, this is part 2, and I just want to say thanks for watching the video. Thanks to my subscribers. You guys are great, and don't forget that like, subscribe, and bell icon to help me build the channel. And here we are, Star Frontiers Part 2, Outpost 1 Adventure Options. We are back to the same timeline option that we did last time, because we focused on the implication of enslaved its inhabitants. Yes, I'm still using the same grammatically incorrect screenshot. Here we are, FY 80. We did the prequel implications, prequel potential adventure. Now we're getting into FY 80, which is the beginning of the Second Sathar War in the frontier. But this whole section of the timeline is very fiddly. It's very, this fleet did this, and this fleet retreated here, then they fought here, and then reinforcements, and it's like somebody wrote a timeline after they played the Star Frontiers Nighthawks campaign game. There's a campaign game where you fight out the Sathar War, and it's like they played the campaign game and they took notes. So it's very fiddly, but there's a lot of little details hidden in there that you start finding things and going, oh, that's interesting. I think I can hang something on that. I can hang an adventure idea on that. And that's what we're looking at today. So Sathar ships capture this non-UPF system, and it says explicitly is a permanent base for incoming Sathar supply ships and troops. This is a forward logistics base on the edge of the frontier. Now, if the Sathar had been smart, they would have built this base and finished it long before they opened the ball on the war. I believe, from what I know about the setting, that the Sathar clans, we know there's an X clan, we know there's a Y clan, we presume there's a Z clan, we presume there are many others. In their whole hierarchy and trying to get one up on the next clan, and because Sathar are, they're jerks. And they're jerks to each other. If you're not of their clan, they're, it's like. So I think what happened here is that Outpost 1 is represented by Clan Y. When you look at the Beyond the Frontier series of adventures, which are all set to the east of the Star Frontiers map, if we call the right side of the map the east, which is where Liberty System is, where Waller Nexus is, where, according to Frontier Explorer number 4 fan magazine, we place Kishin, the homeworld of the Saurians, out in that direction. That's all Clan Y territory. And so Clan Y is coming into the frontier. They're moving west or left into the map. It would be them. And any reasonably smart, gonna jump you in a war type of enemy, they're gonna be like, no, build the base first, then we attack. And I think they got rushed. I think the whole, clan, all the clans getting together and saying, yeah, we're gonna have war against these people. They were rushed into this. They had to rush these plans for this forward supply base. This is important. This is an important thing, and the reason why it's important, I had to look up this comment, this quote. This quote's attributed to a Marine Corps general, General Robert H. Barrow, Commandant of the Marine Corps, 1980. And he said, amateurs talk tactics, but professionals study logistics. This is so important. when I read the book, Reckless, America's Warhorse, you see in this story about this warhorse that made a significant contribution to the Korean War, that the contribution the horse made was not in battle, was not tactics, it was logistics. It was a logistics contribution. And it really underscores this idea that wars are won or lost on logistics. And so this is important. And I believe that Clan Y, they're rushed. So they didn't, they had to rush these plans. Now, in the part one, we talked about being prequel. If you use the Janus material, as I suggested, the Sathar do know about the planet Janus. It would be the Clan Y. They know about it, and they're like, oh, hey, let's make that the forward base. It's not frontier territory. We'll just conquer it quick. We'll take it. We'll start building the base there. So that's number one. That's the first thing to understand about this. But there's another tie-in. I did a lot of tie-ins of material, optional material that's out there. Ares Magazine, number 15. This is before Ares Magazine was part of Dragon Magazine. Ares Magazine was produced by SPI. I presume that TSR Incorporated just bought them out. Ares became a section in Dragon Magazine, a sci-fi section in Dragon Magazine for a long time. And so Ares Magazine had the introduction of an article for Star Frontiers about von Neumann machines. Von Neumann machines are machines that self-replicate themselves. In this case, the von Neumann machines that were introduced were of Sathar origin. They were kind of an automated factory that would just produce, units that would go out and collect resources, and it also would produce like hunter units that would go out and kill anybody interfering with them type thing. So it was like a whole factory, and it could replicate itself. And I always thought, oh, well, that's cool. Well, you know what? Sathar Clan Y comes in and takes this whole planet and starts this whole, we're going to turn this into a military industrial complex. I think this is a great tie-in. You bring in these von Neumann machines, these factories, you drop them, they start doing their thing, all on their own. It frees up the Sathar to focus on the war. Fantastic. And it's a nice tie-in. And later on, these factories, these automated factories, become a target for the player characters in later sections of the series as the Sathar war progresses. So this would be a great tie-in. Highly recommend that you use it. These are brought in at this point. Our next feature in the timeline. Now you say, well, this is not about Outpost 1. Well, it's important to Outpost 1. FY-80, 2 Sathar fleets attack Solar, Minor, and overwhelm the system. In fact, it says it overwhelms the system and no word ever gets out. Well, that's dumb. Word has to get out. When the ships stop coming, people stop answering their subspace mail, somebody's going to go look. The word gets out. But yeah, it overwhelms. They're not able to tell on the day that they get overwhelmed. No radio message gets out. They're just overwhelmed. This is important. Solar Minor is going to figure large in the events of this whole series because the Sathar strip the system. They strip it of assets, get brought to Outpost 1. The population of the 2 inhabited planets here get brought to Outpost 1 eventually. So this was important to cover. It's, the outline point, I don't have much to say about it, but it's important to the overall story. Here's where we get into the adventure options, is FY-83. Now, we were just on FY-80. Obviously, there's been 2.5 years of fighting of this war going on. Lots of stuff happening in that fiddly little timeline in Zeb's. We're skipping a lot of it, obviously. But this here, the Rim Coalition has gotten involved. They've said, hey, if we don't help you stop the Southar, next we'll have them in our home systems. So they have honored a treaty agreement. They've come to the aid of the UPF and the Frontier, and they've sent their flight. That's their space-going military. And it says that a coalition flight long-distance probe discovers Southar Outpost 1 and reports its location before being destroyed. Very bare bones entry. Now, there's a couple of things I'd like to cover with this. Number one is it says it's a probe and it doesn't specify scout ship. So with it being a probe, I'm thinking that it's like a patrol group. Now, in Nighthawks, the base patrol group for Space Fleet is a frigate and 2 assault scouts. Now, you could have all sorts of size patrol groups. You could have a light cruiser and 2 frigates, you know, whatever you want. But the basic unit that they specify in the rules, canon specification, is a frigate and 2 assault scouts. So would make a patrol group. Problems with this is that the frigate doesn't need to overhaul its engines, but every 3 jumps, and the assault scouts every single jump. So that's not a good thing, but you know, somebody thought it was. And this is the flight, so it's not the same ships. Now, that being said, you could have transferred ships transferred over. Could be that you've been running a Royal Marines game, you know, Warriors of White Light, you know, bundled module with the Nighthawks game. You could have been running that thing, and so now you're going to have the crew of the Osprey. The Osprey is a Royal Marine militia ship, and it's going to be attached to the flight. As part of this is a representative from the UPF, be there on hand, part of it, and they're subservient. They fall under the authority of the commander of this RIM-based patrol group, this allied, you know, command structure. So yeah, you could easily do that and attach them for adventure, or you could be playing, you could be playing an all RIM species crew. It's up to you. A lot of things could be done. You could have transferred ships. I would recommend hitting Frontier Explorer issue number 4 for the comm ship, the Talner class communication ship. It is a UPF ship, but maybe one was sold to the flight. Maybe one is just being, you know, lend-lease traded to the flight. It's got a skeleton crew of UPF citizens who are running the ship and showing the ropes to the, you know, crews that are coming in from the RIM to take over. So, you know, they kind of have some RIM citizens who are apprenticing and kind of learning the ropes from the UPF crew, and they're part of this overall mission. And you know, it's important because one of the things that this timeline thing says is that it's more important that the probe gets the word out than that they survive. So historically speaking, we know that they got to Alamo this. They go down fighting and they die. But maybe they don't die. But you could certainly do this probe. And at this point, we should probably switch over to the map. So here's a map showing up here. You see Solar Minor. You see Outpost 1 right here. I'm moving the cursor, and then down here's Solar Minor down here, Solar Major up there. I would start the campaign from the Triscar or Theseus or Solar Minor area and start this scouting mission. Because I would set it up as the UPF realizes there has to be a forward operating base, a forward logistics base the Southar are operating out of. It's just too many times they've seen the same ship damaged, retreats, and then it's back in action, fully repaired. That only makes sense if it's got a close by forward operating base. So that's what this probe is about. They're looking for repair ships. They're looking for a base. They're looking for something. They don't know what they're looking for. And so they would start out and start hitting some of these systems looking for the Sathar. So this might not necessarily be a strictly Nighthawks game. It could be Alpha Dawn action, because you could be landing on some of these planets. You'd be landing on some of these planets and maybe find Sathar listening posts. You might find old Sathar base that's been abandoned. But eventually you'll get to Outpost 1 and you'll get to a hellacious trap where the Sathar kind of trap this probe, and they've got to go down fighting, do the best they can, and get the word out. It's a fight where you've got a countdown clock ticking to, can you get the subspace radio aligned so you can send the message and alert the fleet to the location of this Sathar outpost, or will you die before that happens? And I would make that a very dicey thing. Like, it might happen, it might not happen. Now, so the good guys player character side is going to lose in this. That's foreordained. It's so overwhelming of a trap, they will lose. That doesn't mean the player characters die and the game is over, because they can get into lifeboats and escape pods. Those things automatically go for an inhabited planet. So they'll end up on Outpost 1, and you'll get into a situation, and I hinted at this, I believe, before in the previous video. You'll get into a resistance, French resistance type situation. Whoever the previous inhabitants of the planet were, they have formed a resistance organization to resist the Sathar, very much like the French resistance in World War II. So they would quickly find the escape pods and lifeboats and round up the surviving PCs and crew and NPCs and bring them to a central location and be like, you got to help us. And so then it's now about, can we get word out? And we know that eventually the Sathar are going to strip equipment, because there's a later outline point that talks about the captured fighter squadrons from Solar Minor are being used to defend Outpost 1. So the Sathar are stripping materials and bringing it to Outpost 1, like these fighter squadrons, which makes a lot of sense if it's Clan Y, because they're into fighter squadrons and carriers. So other ships, shuttles, hull size 3 privateers that have been captured, have been brought to Outpost 1 by the Sathar, being used. Can the player characters commandeer one of these ships and manage to escape Outpost 1, escape from Outpost 1? We already hinted at that in the previous video as part of the Janus adventure, escape from Janus. But again, if they did not get the message out and they lost that battle, you still have them adventuring and trying to commandeer an asset, get off planet. And I would make it a regular Frontier asset, so you don't have that -20 for using alien technology that would apply if they were stealing a Sathar ship. So they're stealing a Frontier asset and then using it to try to, get out of town and get back to the fleet and report what's happening in this system. And that would be a good conclusion to that whole adventure arc. You could do several adventures doing scouting missions in some of those empty systems and have some stuff going on. And then your big climax would be at Outpost 1. And the player characters could go on to another adventure that we'll talk about in this series very easily at that point. One last point. If you're going to be running the flight, you need to consult Frontier Explorer number 12. And the reason being is that we did a big article in here called Zebulon's Guide to the Rim. And then there's a huge write-up on the Capella system, a big write-up on the Rim government in general and another write-up on the flight. That write-up includes rank structure. It has the stats for some flight warships that they use. So this would be a perfect resource to help you out with running that game. You're not hanging in the breeze trying to get all this stuff together. There are good resources for you to run this game. You just got to set up some Sathar opposition, and Bob's your uncle. So this is Tom for the Star Frontiers Gamer and Tabletop Taproom with part 2 of the Star Frontiers Outpost 1 Adventure Option series. Hope you've enjoyed the series. If you have, please do give us a like and a thumbs up, and maybe even subscribe if you've not subscribed yet. But otherwise, I just want to say keep on gaming, and I will see you out there in the frontier.